What's up, guys? Recently, Amazon announced that a new patch was coming to the NA and EU servers for Lost Ark. Now, there's a ton of great new content coming in here with a lot of good rewards that are very, very nice for Artillerist. But the one major thing coming with the patch is class balancing. Now, recently on KR, there was a pretty big class balance patch that came out with a ton of changes to Artillerist, almost all exclusively buffs and quality of life updates, with only a slight nerf to our stagger damage. I wanted to go over the changes that recently came to KR so that you can be prepared for when they come out to our server. So I'm going to go ahead and hop on over, and I will link the patch notes below so you can check them out for yourself as well. Alright, so here are the patch notes from the recent Korea server changes. Now, right off the bat, we can immediately see increase the damage of normal skills by 5% during PvE. This is great. As far as I understand, this is just your skills not inside your identity skills, so not your barrage skills, but homing barrage, air raid, multiple rocket launcher, summon turret, all those abilities will be getting just a flat 5% overall buff. That's great right off the bat. Really good start for us. Now, the next couple changes might be a little confusing, but I'll try to explain them. So, these three skills here, Gatling gun, flamethrower, gravitational explosion, all of these have had their back attack effect removed. Now, this might actually seem like a nerf at first because you no longer gain the back attack modifier, but we really didn't use the back attack too much. And the big thing is this now opens up the ability for these abilities to be affected by Hitmaster, which is really important. Hitmaster requires that you don't do a front or back attack. So with these removed, Hitmaster is sometimes used on artillerists. You'll gain that extra bonus on these abilities now. So this is actually a buff to these abilities. Now, you don't really use Gatling gun or gravitational explosion too often in PvE, but flamethrower is used in basically every single build, so that's a nice little buff there. As we keep going down, this is the first potential sort of nerf, you could say. Missile bombing, which is homing barrage, and air raid, you can tell by the pictures, have had their stagger damage actually almost completely removed. They've been lowered quite a bit. And the translations are a little awkward, but basically air raid had a medium stagger and homing barrage had a high stagger, and now they've become the lowest stagger. It sounds really, really weird, right? Artillerist is known as this class that does really, really good stagger damage, and all of a sudden they're getting rid of that. Well, I will try to explain why they're doing this. Basically, homing barrage and air raid are a part of our main core rotation, and because of that, whenever we do our rotation, we're doing a high amount of stagger damage. It sounds good, right? Well, in some of the upcoming raids that we'll be doing, there are times when you don't want to stagger the boss. Staggering the boss could be really, really bad. It'll cause a wipe to the party. But then the problem is you can't use your main DPS abilities because they cause such high stagger damage. Another problem is, say you know you need to stagger soon, so then you have to stop using your main DPS abilities because they're also your highest stagger abilities. So you're forced to not do any damage because you need to hold on to them to do stagger damage. So this is actually intended to be a quality of life change and adjustment. Now, the way they're compensating for this, I'll scroll down a little bit, and you'll see these three abilities here all have their stagger damage increased, which is really, really good. We have a multiple rocket launcher, napalm, and swing all have an increase to their stagger damage. Incredibly good. You can see here as well, they also removed the front attack modifier napalm, going with the theme of removing front and back attacks for artillerist, so it's better for Hitmaster. This is a really, really great quality of life update. Like I said, you no longer have to hold your main DPS abilities or be afraid that you're going to do too much stagger damage with them. Napalm is an ability that you generally you can use in your rotation, but usually it's held for a counter or for its bonus stagger effect. So this will be a great stagger tool. You can see it's getting changed to the absolute highest, the best stagger damage modifier, which is extremely good. You can take the tripod chain explosion, which causes you to do a double hit of napalm, which means you can double with that stagger damage on top of equipping the overwhelm rune. This ability alone could possibly just complete stagger checks on its own. But the other thing is you can do napalm with the stagger damage buff, and then you can follow with multiple rocket launcher, which now will do very high stagger damage as well. So both of these abilities, multiple rocket launcher is used in your rotation, but if you have to hold on to that to make sure you hit a stagger check now, it's much better than holding on to your 2 core abilities. Swing, always been a great counter. On NA and EU, we haven't quite had the skill points to run it. You definitely can run it, but it felt a little awkward. Generally, you pick this up once you gain enough skill points, and it becomes an incredibly good counter. There's not a ton of things to counter right now on our server, but very soon with Valtan coming and other Legion raids, you will need to counter. This also doubles as a great movement cooldown for Artillerist as well. When you put in 7 points and you take quick attack and the dash, the 6-meter dash on it, so you can use it as a movement cooldown or a very fast counter. Speaking of counters, forward barrage is becoming a counter now. No other changes, no downsides. It's just gaining the ability to counter. So if you weren't already running forward barrage, I definitely recommend considering it. You can easily run multiple counters in your build now. Something else they also added, after the initial PTR changes, they added on 2 changes to tripods on air raid and multiple rocket launcher. Now, this is extremely important. Basically, on air raid, we currently use the lightning barrage tripod, which gives you a very high % chance to crit with air raid. Now, they're making a change to the fire tripod. It currently adds a small burn to the target, which it will continue to do, but they're just adding on top of it a increased damage multiplier to monsters of seed grade or higher. I believe that's like challenge or higher, basically like elite and boss monsters. And you can see it starts at 15%, and if you get a +4 tripod, you go all the way up to a level 5 tripod of 40% damage increase. So like I said, you'll have to give up the crit tripod, but you'll just do a constant 40% more damage, and it still burns enemies. The burn doesn't do a ton of damage, but it's still on top of the 40% increased damage. This is an incredible buff. Your air raid is going to be hitting almost as hard as your homing barrage now with this. One thing to keep in mind as well, if you're using the big one with air raid, it will cause the burn to be applied at maximum stacks as well. It'll show 1 burn, but it counts as 3 burns rolled into 1. So it's an incredibly strong tripod. For rocket launcher, it also has a fire tripod that causes a burn. Now they're removing the burn, but they're doing the exact same thing with multiple rocket launcher that they are with air raid. They're changing it to just a flat damage increase. So for multiple rocket launcher, no more burn, but you can see again, starting at 15% all the way up to just a flat 40% increased damage. Now, you can see so far, there's been just damage buffs and quality of life updates. We do slightly less stagger damage with the changes to air raid and homing barrage, but it's much easier and more efficient to use. But I haven't even gotten to the best part yet. So if we scroll down here, we can see, well, the heavy turret has 300% more health during PvE. That's pretty good. Nothing too crazy. Your heavy turret will definitely just die to some mechanics if you're not very careful. But this is a great little update. Again, like I said, quality of life updates, extremely important, and I would almost always choose quality of life over just raw buffs. But let's get to the best part. Now, Most people have been running a swift crit build where you focus on using your core abilities, and maybe you go into your barrage mode once in a while, you use an energy cannon, maybe a howitzer, not too much. Well, as you get higher eye level, and if you watch my stream or hang out around my channel much, you'll know that the specialization build is incredibly high damage and is by far the best build for artillerists to play. Now, you can continue to play Swift Crit, but specialization just surpasses it in damage by quite a bit. What that means is you need to go into Barrage mode, your Z identity skill, to gain as much damage as possible. This can be quite frustrating for a lot of people, being forced to stand still and output damage. The boss either moves away from you or he targets you with a mechanic immediately. And it's really, really frustrating and difficult to use. Well, this patch is looking to alleviate some of those issues. So first off, it says change so that you can use the mobile device in shelling mode, and the shelling mode is immediately canceled when you use the mobile device. Mobile device is your dodge roll, your space bar. So what this is saying is when you're inside of your barrage mode, you can just hit spacebar, it instantly cancels it, but you immediately roll. This is huge. Right now, if you're in barrage mode and you want to get out of a mechanic, you have to click your barrage mode, slowly get out of it, then you can roll. It's a huge animation lock that makes it incredibly frustrating to try to get out of. This will allow you to immediately get out of a mechanic, which is super, super good. On top of that, if you get silenced, you can now actually leave your barrage mode, which is really important as well. You don't just get stuck in it. The biggest change is here. You can now use time stop potion while in barrage mode. This is great. You don't have to swap out, get caught in animation, hope you can time stop. You can just immediately click the time stop and resume your damage rotation right afterwards. Huge changes, great quality of life. This alone will make you much more efficient and increase your DPS by giving you better uptime, less damage taken. Great stuff. Would you believe me if I told you it gets even better? Here we have a nice little UI update. Whenever you hit the maximum firepower gauge, it'll now pop up next to your character on your screen, kind of a bar that will slowly go down. I'll show you here in a second with a GIF I have. And it's just a nice little UI update, not too bad. We get to our abilities inside barrage mode. Now, the first thing is artillery howitzer. This is your Q ability. The cooldown will be lowered from 12 to 9 seconds. Seems kind of interesting, right? If you haven't played the spec build or done too much with it, you might not understand this, especially because it's based on the next change. So let's go ahead and hop to this and we'll go back to that. Artillery fire, concentrated fire. This is your W ability in barrage mode, focus fire. Increased range by 50%. Okay, I'm gonna have to show you a GIF now. I don't know if this is a typo, but I believe it is a lot more than 50%. This is the new focus fire. It is absolutely huge. I don't know what else to say other than I'm not complaining and I would not correct them about it. Here's another one using it in PvP. It covers the entire arena. It's insane. If that's a 50% increase, I will gladly take that. This is the biggest change that everyone is so excited for with it. I can't stop watching these. It's so great. So we're getting that, and then the other two best parts about this: increase the speed until the start of the attack. So what this is saying is, but between the time you click the button and the ability starts, there will be a shorter duration. It will go quicker. So you will start the animation faster, and then the last one is reduce the duration of the attack by 30%. So if it lasted 10 seconds, it'll now only last 7 seconds. Now, a smart person will say, well, isn't that a DPS loss? And yes, it actually is. The W focus fire ability will be doing less damage, but the main important key thing to take away from this is you will start the ability quicker and you will finish it quicker. What this means is less time spent in barrage mode, which is what the most important thing is. You will get in and out, and with the increased range, you'll be able to reach the boss much more often. How many times have you tried to hold your W and they're just out of range and you can't reach them? Now the range is almost as big as your energy cannon, your E. It's insane. So with this in mind, our focus fire being shorter, we go back to this change we just talked about with Howitzer. This is the reason that the cooldown has been shortened. You are now spending less time inside of barrage mode. So normally the rotation in barrage is Q Howitzer, W or E, and then you do another Q after doing both W and E to finish it out. The problem was, even with barrage skill cooldown gems, they couldn't quite fit the rotation in. So they cut 3 whole seconds off the base cooldown of Howitzer. Absolutely crazy. This is one of the best changes I've had in any game I've played. It really felt like the person who made these changes plays this class, and that's something you absolutely love to see when you're playing any game. These are gonna just be great. I can't stop talking about them on stream. I'm just so excited. They'll be coming out with the patch. Hopefully on the 19th of May, that's where it's currently targeted. Hopefully there's not any pushback. I am starting to ramble a little bit, so I'm going to wrap this up. I will be putting out 2 videos on patch day, where one, I'm going to be going over all the set bonuses for Artillerist. There's 3 different sets and builds you can run that all have different strengths and weaknesses. And I'm also going to be making a video on the build I plan on playing with the set bonus. For anyone that doesn't know, like I said, I play the spec build with Barrage, so I am over the moon with these changes and super excited. Like I said, I'll link these patch notes down below, and if you want to check them out, feel free to. If you use Chrome, you just right click, translate to English, and you're good to go. So I really hope this video has given you guys as much excitement it has for me. And if you by chance watch this and you don't play Artillerist, or you have an alt Artillerist, you're really gonna enjoy the class. I definitely recommend checking it out. So if you guys want to ask any questions, make sure you leave them down in the comment section below, or you can always catch me over on twitch.tv/Karth. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.